The wave of uploads and social media posts regarding Doom the Dark Ages is in full effect. We were hit with a big reveal from id Software showcasing their next project in the Doom series, and this one is going to be a banger for sure. After having some time to fully analyze and review the gameplay and cutscenes from the reveal, I wanted to have a breakdown video as I usually do on this channel. There was a lot of content to review, but I feel like it would be a disservice to mention every tiny little piece within each frame. So this breakdown will at least cover the main parts along with some subtle and hidden details throughout. Alright, let's get going. The first part of the reveal shows id Software Studio along with a heavy track from the studio who is doing the soundtrack this time around, Finishing Move. After hearing the music so far, they have impressed me for sure. Once the gameplay actually starts, we see the Doomslayer doing his usual slow walk towards someone he intends to rip apart. He drops the flail and drags it across the ground, and we see two figures in the background. The one with the horns appears to be the antagonist in this game, whose name is Ozrak, along with someone on the ground. The rumor is that he is King Novik, or at least someone of royalty based on his cloak and different armor than the other Sentinel warriors. I guess we'll see more down the road. Moving on, we see some quick shots of a door being cut through, a Sentinel shooting his gun that is from Doom 2016's multiplayer, the lightning gun. In fact, you can see that gun being carried by other Sentinels throughout the cutscene in the Ancient Gods Part 2 at Imora. So the asset is mostly just being reused, which is pretty normal in modern games. We see three Titans running towards something, and then an armored Titan that throws a destroyed Atlan, which is of course pretty cool to see that they are not pushovers at all. Who knows if the destroyed Atlan is the Slayer's or someone else's? The next shot is very quick, but it not only shows the Slayer kicking the armored Titan in the face, knocking it back into a deep pit, but there is something in his mouth. Maybe a bomb of some kind, which explains why the Slayer jumps out of his mech into a flying ship in an upcoming scene. This area is definitely Mars, and I think it is the port city of Hebeth that was mentioned in the lore in Doom Eternal. Maybe we can finally see what happened to that city and why it ended up in the core of Mars. The next scene shows the Slayer fall back from a blast, which happens quickly, and the next scene shows our first look at modern imps, but with long hair. I actually like this design since we now have the original imp design from the retro games and a better way to differentiate the two when they are on the battlefield at the same time. It seems that they might move slightly different this time around, where they crawl and run and still throw quick fireballs. The next scene here is where I was mentioning about the Slayer escaping from his Atlan to jump into a flying ship to escape the blast from the armored Titan he kicked into the pit. I imagine that explosion could be nuclear or even more powerful, and that was the reason why Hebeth was destroyed. The Slayer only moves that quick when he knows he needs to get away fast, so we'll find out about that later. Then we have a shot from the first teaser that shows the Slayer being shot out of a Maker-looking ship that many believe to be the hub, which is not a hub according to the developer panel I was part of before the developer direct event. After that part, we go back to Hugo, where he mentions about us playing as a super weapon in a fantasy world full of different locations. We can see different places, such as a battle that we've seen in the teaser, another location that seems to be from the teaser but a lot closer, and other locations that I can talk about in another video. We see a better animation of the rail spike weapon, which is one of my favorites so far. In the next frame, we see a new enemy that closely resembles one of the enemies from Quake 4, the Stream Protector. This enemy is no doubt one of the super heavy demons, much like a Marauder, who we will need to find weak points and a better strategy to take down than other regular demon type enemies. I really like his design and can't wait to learn more about him. Jumping ahead, we see a bunch of Mancubi in a hell level. At first I thought the beam in the background was from the Argent Energy Factory at Necroval, but by zooming in we can see that the structure is different. Maybe this is where the main villain resides, or another Dark Lord we need to take out among the Order of the Six. Moving up in the video, we see the pickup animation for the Super Shotgun, the UI design, and some abilities that this shield saw can do. I do like the new UI with the face in the middle, but from what I've seen in the community, not everyone is a fan of how it looks. Keep in mind, it could just be a placeholder, or just like Eternal, you'll have a ton of options in the settings to disable it, change the color of the UI, and many more possibilities. In a later scene, you can see it showing his face with hair, so there are most likely other options for his face. In the next scene, we finally get to see the new design of the combat shotgun. I figured this weapon would be in the game since it is in every Doom game. The design is really cool, where it looks like a Sentinel weapon, and the reload animation is very realistic, where the bolt carrier group blows back after a shot and then pushes the next shell into the chamber. But here it reminds me of an artillery kind of weapon. something ideal for the Slayer. We of course get to see larger scale battles in the background of this game due to the power of the new id Tech engine they are using. The next scene shows what seems to be some Argentinians worshipping while the church is under attack. I don't think this game will cover the Civil War, where the people of RipNtear took side with the Slayer or the Makers, so they could be worshipping or praying to the Makers at this point in the story to help them or save them from the attack. Then again, they could be attempting to resurrect something that appears in the middle of them on the ground. It's a quick scene, so I won't focus too much on it. Let me know what you think about it though. The next scene shows a battle against the city we see in the trailer, and a side view of where the Slayer goes out of the city later in the reveal to deal with the demons outside. This other scene shows the Slayer starting up the shield, which is obvious, but after he does it, there is a light generating on the right side, but nothing else before the frame cuts to another one. Maybe a tutorial appears, or something else related to the story. The next frame is very important. It shows the Slayer blocking the shield against the Arachnotron, who probably will have a different name, but if you look at the shield meter on the bottom left corner, it shows you how much damage it can take while you block with the shield. So it's confirmed that you won't be able to block forever, and once the meter runs up, then you'll be taking damage. The next several shots show the different abilities that can be done with the shield, such as blocking, which I first mentioned, throwing it, using it to parry, deflect enemy projectiles, all from one input. It definitely puts the regular chainsaw to shame. The shield saw will allow us to use it as another weapon, along with different weapon combos like quick switching that could be done in other Doom games. It also allows us to have some breathing room when facing bigger enemy types like the Agadon Hunter and the Spider Demon. If we are to stand and fight rather than running and gunning, the shield will allow us to move like a tank and demolish anything that gets in our way. I'm going to have a lot of fun finding different ways to take out enemies with the saw. This other scene shows the start of using the other melee weapons like the flail, mace, and gauntlets. Each ability will have their different upgrades, 3 attacks that charge up by a meter, much like the Blood Punch in Eternal, and can swap them out at any time from the menu. I wonder if any one of them have a better strategy to use against certain enemy types. I would imagine that the flail would give you a slight distant advantage due to the length of the chain and allow you to have a better field of view of other enemies. If enemies are close together, you can damage more than one enemy with one hit. The mace could deal more damage to a single enemy, but would also require you to get closer. We do see the Revenant in a Spectre form, and then when using the mace, it changed him back to a physical form during the blow. Maybe the mace helps with Spectre type enemies. The gauntlet can be electrified, and it seemed to do an area of effect to other enemies in the area after the Slayer punched the Mancubus. It also combos with the shield and kicks from what I could tell. I guess we'll find out more about those at a later time. Going back to the Revenant getting hit with the mace, we can see a new weapon appear just before the melee attack. Not too sure what it could be, but maybe a weapon much like the Gauss Cannon or Ballista. We then see the new Glory Kill system where there won't be a locked animation when finishing a demon off. Instead of the enemy's body glowing to let you know that they are ready to be glory killed, a purple halo appears this time. It'll still allow you to attack from different angles for different finishing blows, but now you'll have to use the Glory Kill more strategically. Since the Glory Kills in previous games allowed you to have a small window of invulnerability, and allow you to think about your next move, Glory Kills this time around will make you think about other threats first before you attempt to Glory Kill someone, since you will be vulnerable. I really like this change of pace since it will force you to look at the battlefield differently. Instead of focusing on the bigger threat and Glory Killing him first, you'll have to weed out the smaller threats and then focus on the bigger threat. Of course, that's just my thought process on the matter, and you can do anything that works for you. Moving on in the reveal, we can see the epicness of the number of demons that can be displayed at one time on the screen. Doom Eternal pushed the boundaries of that possibility, but now we can see a lot more enemies this time around. The Skull Crusher will make good use of taking out fodder demons and clearing a path for the Slayer. We also get a good glimpse of a new weapon that appears to be 2 plasma rifles combined into one. This gun seems to work much like the heavy assault rifle due to its rate of fire, and that the accelerator seems to be the plasma rifle type of weapon in this game. It's also possible that the 2 plasma rifles are a mod for the accelerator to look and act that way. Expect to see the weapons to look bulkier and shorter since the Slayer can only hold them with one hand, while the other holds the shield. Not that it makes much of a difference, but if we get a Crucible in this game, then that will go hand in hand with the Slayer Testaments. With sword and shield of adamantine strength, the Doomslayer set to banishing all that were left unbroken by his savagery to the void. The next part of the reveal shows some continuous gameplay footage where you can see the abilities and weapons we've seen up to this point. However, you can see how to traverse with the shield across gaps in the environment. You'll throw the shield, hitting a surface, and then press a button to move across the gap and return the shield to yourself. It seems to be like a teleport kind of process, and I'm not sure how exactly that works, but then again, it's just a game. Another thing I wanted to mention was the shield guys in this gameplay footage. You can see the shields with the red and yellow color, but then there is one with a blue colored shield. It could be possible that there are different types of soldiers that do different damage based on their shield color, much like the ones in the Ancient Gods Part 2, with the blue shield guys using a shotgun and the yellow shield guys using a chain gun of sorts. By now we have seen the OG imp in action, but I wanted to point out that their projectiles are not a fireball, but rather a cross and turn green when you can deflect it. Makes me wonder what the other imps with hair will do since we haven't seen them in action yet. The next part shows off how much customization we can do to the difficulty by way of choosing the difficulty and using modifiers. We get to use sliders to make the game easier or harder based on how you want to play the game. This will be great to find the settings that work best for your playstyle and develop better strategies for certain enemies. I can't wait to see more of that in play. A big part of the reveal shows the ability to pilot the Atlan mech, which is seen fighting Titans on Mars. You can use melee abilities along with a giant dual chain gun that melts Titans in its crosshairs. The Atlan also can destroy buildings in its way, so there will be destructible environments to a degree. On top of that, we can see more gameplay of the Mecha Dragon. Slowing down the video, you can see the different meters on the UI. The center is the health, the one on the right appears to be a dash meter which depletes when the dragon shifts to the right when attacking the new Cacodemon type enemy. The meter on the left, however, isn't used in the gameplay, but could be another weapon such as a cannon or something. Also, I wanted to mention that the UI turns red when firing weapons and then turns back to the standard colors when the firing stops. This other shot where the Atlan is fighting against two Titans, the energy beam in the background is red, and when we first saw the Atlan with the Gatling gun in action, it was white or a light blue. I think that part of the level will have some major significance to the story. The next section of the reveal talks about the environments of the game, showing different locations that we can expect to see. Some are familiar, places from the Slayer's past, forests, and beyond. One such location I wanted to point out was this one with the dead Titan looking creature next to a giant sword. At first I thought it was the Titan mentioned in the Slayer Testaments, but it's probably a remnant of one of the Ancestrals, who were mentioned in the story of the Sentinels Codex entry from Doom Eternal. They were giant creatures invigorated by the magic of the wraiths and waged war on each other for countless years. In fact, I wonder if you get the Mecha Dragon from within one of those creatures, since the frame showing the dragon expanding its wings, the environment around it looks like rib bones. Let me know what you think about that. Exploration will be a big focus in this game in terms of finding upgrades, collectibles, and many secrets that could contain Easter eggs. It's not always required to go off the beaten path, but doing so will reward you. There are puzzles to interact with the shield to get you to the next phase of the level, which breaks up the gameplay a little. I love how the key cards are making a return from Doom 2016 to help unlock doors within each level. Other things that are making a return are characters who we know, such as Commander Valen, or the Betrayer as we know him. He is a lot younger this time around, and I wonder how much screen time he will have in this game. We see other parts of the mission that will be playable, and not much to point out other than the rail spike gun can make arcing shots and there are oblivion portals on the battlefield. Maybe an Easter egg. Other than that, we can once again see the scope of how many enemies can be on the battlefield at once in this location. Among the enemies, you can see the tyrants with the wings. We don't get to see them in action, and I wonder if they even use the wings. We then see a montage of other shots showing exploration, collecting items, secrets, and then a new weapon that looks like either a nail gun of sorts or a chain gun. However, by slowing down the video, it's actually the rail spike gun with most likely a mod attachment that lets it shoot faster and shoots out fletchets or small arrows. Besides that, we see the spider enemy using one of its other abilities where you need to dodge his projectiles and deflect the green one back at him. We also get to see the OG Lost Soul make a return. They may actually be more alone this time around rather than being spawned by a pain elemental. After the montage, we see what is probably the most metal part of the reveal, showing off an armored titan rising from the depths along with the best sound of the soundtrack so far. I wonder if this city is Terras Nabat and the Titan is the Dreadnought mentioned in the Codex entries in Doom Eternal. Terras Nabat was a city of great importance, and it could make sense to have this mission take place there. The story is another big part of Doom the Dark Ages. It shows the origin of the Doomslayer, along with how the Unholy Crusades managed to destroy the Sentinel people, causing a civil war, and with the Makers winning on both fronts. I wonder how much of the Makers are already involved with working with Hell in this game. We know they made a deal with the Dark Lord to allow Hell to invade worlds and in turn receive the essence they combined with Wraith energy into Argent energy. We see that Azrak is meeting with a Sentinel, most likely a Daeg priest, by way of a projection or hologram, which could be the start of that deal. The beginning of this game has the Slayer imprisoned, which could either be when he first shows up to Argentinur, or after the heresy of Samur Maker, allowing the Slayer to become immortal from the divinity machine. Hugo mentions in the reveal that the Slayer's enemies are envious of his power, and his powers are also withheld from his allies. It may be that the fat Maker guy, who is already making meme headlines, is some kind of leader in the Maker hierarchy, above a Seraph but lower than a Khan. I wonder who he is talking to. In the short frame we see him and a Seraph or Maker in front of him. Maybe it's Samur Maker without wearing his hood that we see him wearing in the Ancient Gods Part 1 and receiving his judgment from betraying the Khan Maker and allowing the Slayer to be put in the divinity machine. A big change I wanted to mention about the part we see the Slayer receiving his gun and shield from the reveal is different from the teaser. The teaser showed him receiving the super shotgun and the shield had the saw blades showing. This new reveal shows him receiving the combat shotgun and the shield doesn't show the saw blades. So this part is most likely the first level, much like the Fortress of Doom in Doom Eternal where the Slayer is gearing up for the campaign. I also like how Hugo mentions that the story is shown more in the cutscenes than the Codex entries. This will allow anyone new to the series to get a feel of what is going on rather than having to find secret Codex entries or digging deep into the lore. It's a big part of my channel to pay attention to the lore, but it's not for everyone, and that's okay. I hope you all enjoyed my breakdown for the Xbox developer direct gameplay reveal for Doom the Dark Ages. This was a longer video than I originally thought it would be, but down the road expect somewhat shorter videos, especially when it comes to the lore. Let me know what I might have missed from my breakdown in the comment section. Doom the Dark Ages is going to change the way we play Doom forever, and I am looking forward to the change. I'm also really excited for it and can't wait for any new details about the game prior to its release. If you're new here and love everything Doom related, then you are in the right place. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you like what you see here. I hope you all have a great one, and don't forget to rip and tear. Peace.